Welcome back to the Modal Notes. This is episode 2, Attack of the Imperials, if you will. Now, I wasn't exactly clear last time. I said it was episode 1 of the Modal Notes, which isn't exactly true. The Modal Notes is the overall channel that I'm doing, but this particular series is called Heir Apparent, a Rogue One musical analysis. The Heir Apparent in this being Michael Giacchino, since I believe that he is the one who's going to take the baton from John Williams once John Williams passes on. My overall Modal Notes channel is because I'm thinking about, when I finish talking about Rogue One, talking about other non-John Williams Star Wars soundtracks like Shadows of the Empire or Republic Commando. So that's the plan for now, but for now let's look at the music of Rogue One once again. Now, I was originally planning on talking about 3 different themes today, the 2 Imperial themes and the Guardians of the Wills. However, I was listening to the Imperial Suite as I was making up the plan for this episode, and I found enough to say just on the 2 Imperial themes that I'm actually going to postpone the Guardians of the Wills theme until the 3rd episode, when I'm going to be connecting that episode, or rather that theme, to a larger concept. But for now, I'm going to be talking about the 2 Imperial themes, which are drawn from the Imperial Suite at the end of the Rogue One soundtrack. Now, I know that they're 2 different themes, because even though they're in the same suite, well, first of all, a suite usually means that it's more than one theme or melody put together into the same piece. But second of all, I know it because these 2 different themes play during different times during the movie. Excuse me. So I know they're doing 2 different things. One of them is representing the Imperial Military, and one of them is representing Director Krennic. So first of all, today I'm going to talk about the Imperial Military theme, or what I call the Imperial Militarism theme, which is a very jagged, vicious-sounding theme, which goes like this. So the harmonies in this theme obviously sound kind of weird and strange and jagged, but there's actually a reason for that, and there are 3 different things about this theme that I want to talk about, first of which is the weird harmonies. They're actually not so weird because they're referring to Vader and Vader's shadow being over the whole Empire at this point, as you can see represented on Vader's castle on Mustafar, when Vader appears in the doorway and his huge shadow just looms over Director Krennic on Mustafar. So first of all, I just want to go over what the harmonies are like in this theme, which may be a little technical, but just bear with me. So first you get a basic F minor triad, and then you get a C sharp minor triad. Then you go back to F minor, to a first version F minor triad, and then you get F sharp minor. And then in the B section, you're just switching between F minor and F sharp minor. So it's a very militaristic sounding thing. So if you just take these harmonies, and I'm just going to take all the melody out of it and just play the background. In case that's not clear enough, I'm just going to take the same harmonies, again, the same harmonies from this theme, and just give them a different rhythm. So these harmonies, even though it's a different melody, are exactly the same as that of the Imperial March, which makes sense because the Imperial March is partly Vader's theme, but it is partially just the theme of the Empire in the original trilogy. But it does show that Vader is sort of behind all of this, looming in the background. He might appear any second. Once again, spoiler alert, I might say some things that relate to spoilers, so just FYI. So the second thing I want to talk about, besides it representing Vader's shadow and the Imperials, is the fact that it's all minor. Now, most themes usually contain aspects of both major and minor. So, for example, in Across the Stars, which is Anakin Padme's love theme, in Episode 2, ironically, you hear... So, all minor, but then you get this major, just for a second. Then major again. So, usually in the theme, you get just these little instances of both major and minor in any given theme. But, by contrast, in this Imperial theme, there's no major in it whatsoever. You don't even get any sort of transition to a major theme at any point. It's all... So this sort of indicates the incontrovertible evil of the whole empire, that there's not really a whit of good in the whole system. But the third thing I wanted to talk about, I think, is the most interesting, because it's Giacchino's use of the tritone. So a tritone is basically, you take the interval of a fifth, but then you take the higher note and put it down a half step, so it becomes... which is a very unsettling sounding sort of rhythm, or sort of harmony, that is. So the tritone is sort of an ancient tradition of an interval you can use to indicate unease or even something like death, which is drawn from medieval times. During the medieval times, the tritone, this interval, was actually associated with the devil, so they actually thought that this interval itself was evil, and so of course they wanted to avoid it. So you can hear it in the theme. So he sort of has this tritone throughout the whole part of the second half. And then... So by using the tritone in his theme, he sort of invokes an ancient, age-old sort of dread and terror of death and evil, which is a really good way of showing that these guys are bad guys. And then the fourth thing about it is just that it's very, very military rhythm, you know. And that's how you know it's associated with the Imperial Military, because, you know, that sort of rhythm is usually associated with drum cadences or something like that. So that's the Imperial Military theme. Then I want to talk about Director Krennic's theme, which goes like... So it's also sort of an oddball theme with strange harmonies, and to some extent it's connected with the Imperial Military theme, because in the second part you hear like a... which again is... So again, it's associated with the Imperial March, showing that Krenek is a part of the Empire. But it does contain a few twists which differentiate it from the military theme and let you know that it's something completely different. And that, mainly the difference, is in this weird little switch between the major and minor third. You get... which is a very odd sounding harmonic choice, because basically you are in G minor, you know, but then you keep switching between major and minor, and it finally ends up in minor, showing that in the end he's a bad guy. But the switch between this major and minor shows that, well, it could mean a couple of things. It could either mean that he's not totally a bad guy. One of the big ideas that Rogue One was emphasizing was showing that there are bad rebels that are supposed to assassinate Imperials, or that shoot informants in the back so that they can keep having the rebellion. And so on the flip side of that, maybe it's showing that there are some Imperials that are not all bad. Now, Krenek does appear to be pretty bad. However, say when the super laser is fired, since it is his project, it was a project he was responsible for supervising, when it fires, he always comments that the explosion that the super laser makes is beautiful. Now, this doesn't seem exactly very virtuous, since he is saying that the death of thousands or millions of people is beautiful, but it does show that he has some sort of twisted sense of what is beautiful. So there could be a very tiny kernel of good in him. However, the explanation for the major and minor third, the better explanation, I think, is that he maybe has a screw too loose in his brain. meaning he's slightly crazy, because sometimes he gets very enraged or emotional about whatever usually Grand Moff Tarkin is saying, and he starts almost lisping and slurring his words like he's a man just totally drunk on power, and nothing else means more to him. So when you get this weird switch between major and minor, it's like his emotions keep changing. Like he has some sort of personality disorder, and one second he's very calm, and in another second he's enraged and emotional, and one second he's kind of good, and another he's really bad. So I think the more obvious explanation is that he's a little crazy. But either way, this switch between major and minor isn't something you usually hear in any villain's theme in Star Wars. Vader's theme, for example, is all bad, and the Emperor's theme, you don't get any major in either of their themes, but you just get this little glint of major in Krennic's theme. So these are two very interesting things that Giacchino has included in his soundtrack. This sort of medieval employment of the tritone to evoke an ancient fear, use of the very military rhythms, and including the Imperial March in some way in both of these themes to indicate that they are both the Empire and Vader is still around and in business. So next time I hope to talk about the Guardians of the Wills, and as I said, I'm going to be connecting it to a larger concept where I'm going to be talking about Guardians of the Wills, Krennic's theme, and Jin's theme, and what these themes have in common and why they have things in common. And I also just want to give a little plug. That's the word I was looking for in the last one, plug. I want to give just a little plug for Star Wars Oxygen again, the Star Wars podcast that talks about John Williams' music, because they've just released their first episode dealing with the music of Rogue One, which I haven't listened to yet, and I'm not going to listen to until I finish this series, just to make sure that all the thoughts that I say in this are entirely my own, and I don't end up saying any of their thoughts. But I do highly recommend that you check them out, because, as I said, the host is a really highly placed music expert, and it's a very enjoyable show to listen to. But that's all I have for now, and as I said before, I hope to be back soon. But if you're listening to this around the time that I'm releasing it, around Christmas, I just want to say, as Chewbacca might say, Happy Life Day.